right, step 2, call order. So we call order and
Yeah, so roll call's done.
Maybe an agenda.
Yeah, they're right
Okay.
back there. Sorry.
Okay.
so call the meeting to order and going to open up to public comment. Limit to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment today?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Next step, approval of July minutes. If everyone's-
Elizabeth, you had a correction. You were in remote attendance, correct?
Correct, yes, that was what I noticed from the July meeting.
My apologies on that one.
No problem at all.
All right, so we just need to make the amendment that Elizabeth Gray was in attendance.
Okay. And any next step, considerations or additions of it to the agenda, anything?
You need a motion to accept the minutes.
Oh, okay, motion to accept.
Who made the motion? Who made the motion?
I can
No,
send
Eugene.
it.
And Kelly second
Kelly
it,
second. Okay.
and call a vote, or does it need a vote?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
vote.
That's a new Robert's Rules of Order I just learned, Wes.
What?
Yeah, in UCF Senate, the new version. If
Okay.
if the minutes, oh, but it did have an amendment.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did have
Yeah,
a
it had
change,
an
so do we
amendment.
approve the changes to the
Yeah.
minutes? Oh, say yay,
Yay.
yay,
Yeah.
any nays? Nope, unanimous.
All right.
Is that the version 12? Gosh, I gotta go out and buy it now. See ya.
No, I'm
I just
intrigued.
had to do a
They
class
might have a
on it.
copy in the library.
Oh, yeah.
Touche.
Oh, wow. I have a copy of that at home. Okay, we did approval and reports to officers and work groups, update on Lake Pickett, Kelly.
So I don't have an update on the grow, maybe Commissioner
Where?
Bonilla or Wes perhaps.
Oh, I was just looking, considerations, additions, we passed that approval agenda, we
Mhm.
passed that. Okay, okay.
I'm
So-
sorry, I jumped.
Yeah, I'm like
Consider-
this, I'm
I'm
like, am I
sorry.
missing something?
Yeah, consideration additions to the agenda. Did anyone want to add anything to today's agenda?
I would.
Yeah, okay, Kelly.
So we have these very large ambitious projects, which I think are fabulous. But I think that our group could get some momentum if we did some low hanging fruit projects, just to get, because it feels like, like our
Some
University
multi-use
Corridor
big-
one is based on Vision 2050. And then the Lake Pickett North buying the property is with EPD. So we're just sitting, so maybe if there's some smaller projects that we could just discuss today or opportunities for smaller size scale projects.
So you want to add E section, E at the end of the list
Yes.
to add, like, discuss smaller projects?
Yes,
Okay, discussion.
Like a brainstorming session, the thing you can
just
come up
a
with.
real short, not
Yeah,
to spend a lot of
discussion.
time, but just to, you guys may already have some ideas in mind. So
So maybe projects that can be completed in less than a year, maybe
Maybe less than
in
that.
6 months.
maybe like
Just
45.
like
Or
Like a
quickies.
week- Like a
Quickie,
weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, if you guys, okay,
That's
we're-
what I'm building.
okay,
Quickies, yeah.
all right, so we got,
I know that sounds bad, but like, it's,
okay, well, I'll put it down.
Don't mean
E.
it that way.
All right, so we got E, so we can move on to the next, which is
okay,
approval of this month's agenda now with the addition that we just did, which is E.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Yes.
I second it. Call a vote. All to approve. Yeah.
Right.
Any nays? All approved. Unanimous.
okay. Now I could jump into the Lake Pickett thing.
Yep, now the reports and,
Okay, so I am meeting with one of the staff members, I believe on Thursday, to go over the changes that were done to the regulating plan and the PSPs that are coming forward, so I could understand what the changes were. So when I have that meeting, I'll have more updates. Unfortunately, I didn't have it before this. And then Lake Pickett North did or are thinking, they haven't submitted anything yet, but they're thinking coming back again.
yeah, we expect that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we have to reach out to EPD and I
haven't
do
heard
that right
anything from-
now with What's her name? Like
Beth
Beth
Jackson.
Jackson?
Beth.
Let me reach out to her right now, to send her an email asking for an update on that.
I mean, I think that one of the actions we talked about previously was trying to make this thing into a park or,
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's
I
what we're
mean-
still working on.
you know, how. I guess now, I guess maybe it's like maybe it's like a time that we can kind of maybe focus on that because I know they're gonna come back. So I think we should be like almost.
Yeah, well, what's happening so far is we've asked EPD to go out. Like a year and a half ago, we came out with a bunch of different parts of that land. And we asked EPD to consider 3, and it turned out she looked at 5 of the parcels, which is basically the whole thing. From what I heard, they came back ecologically good.
Mhm.
And I thought they were gonna be moving over to real estate, but I'm not 100% sure. So next step is go to real estate. Real estate does what they do, which is get it in order and then make an offer and see if they're willing. If they're not willing, then we're hosed. Otherwise, I think that we're somewhere between Beth and the real estate department right now. It's the Sunrail. That's our mass transit right there. So, I also had asked Beth about another piece of property of Hal Scott, and she said that one came back really well ecologically, which is the parcel right north of 528, which connects Hal Scott. It's the last big chunk of land that Hal Scott, and it's kind of landlocked because 528 right by the prison, there's a piece of private land right there. It's 371 acres. And I thought that would be a good parcel for her to look at. And I had asked her, because I came from the Florida Trail point of view. I said, we have a chance of connecting the Florida
Get that
Trail
corridor in there.
underneath that cattle trough there. And if they did move forward, then we probably could, this is me projected, but US Forestry might be willing to help us to buy that land. Because
Wow.
US Forestry would help us get off the road, which that's what we're trying to do right now, is get
Mhm.
off a 32-mile road walk. So they have bought, there's a big chunk in Seminole County that they bought a number of years ago to get us off a 2-mile section. And they own about 500 acres out there.
Isn't the like the Florida Trail isn't it like split like that?
It splits right at,
And it's kind of weird on the east side, the way it sort of splits.
on the east side, what happens is the Florida Trail comes up to 3 Lakes, if you're familiar with 3 Lakes. Right at 3 Lakes and Old Canoe Creek Road, it crosses across the Old Canoe Creek Road. The eastern portion goes towards east towards Bull Creek, eventually up 520 Deer Park, around the Mormon Ranch, basically. The west side goes actually towards Kissimmee up and then goes through the Withlacoochee. So we have 2 big sections there. What we've been working on for 10 years now is trying to get the reroute. The Mormons asked us to leave 12 years ago, when we had to move the trail off of the Mormon property onto the road walk, which is a 32-mile road walk. And we have been working diligent. So we have a new trail going through Split Oak, which we know about. We have a proposed route going through Hal Scott. We've already cut a new one through Cosby Marsh. We have another one that's already been maintained for the last 2 years in Christmas, Salvage Creek.
Mhm.
And then we have a couple missing, it's going to be road walks, but Beth has been working with the county, BCC, buying a little checkerboard board area north of 50 by the 520 overpass. So you all have been buying those parcels. So we're hoping eventually we'll be able to jump there. There's 3 parcels of land just north of Long Branch. If any one of those 3 would sell, we would have a land bridge going from Hal Scott, Long Branch, through that connector up to 50, then through the checkerboard into Salvage Creek. So we could take a big chunk off. So, and a lot of those things, like Orange County should take advantage and approach US Forestry, because they would probably help us buying that property. So, and they do have money, so.
Is US Forestry Are they the ones that maintain the Florida Trail, or is that how they work?
We work,
How could they work in
I'm putting my
conjunction with
Florida
the,
Trail person hat on.
yeah, with the Orange County, I guess, how could they sort of work together? You see them?
They help maintain a lot of the conservation land.
That
We have
land that.
good contracts with
With
the
the capital.
county.
Yeah, and what, the Florida Trail Association, when we do volunteer work, if any of you volunteer, you put your hours down, there's a reimbursement through US Forestry. All of our training is through US Forestry. When I go to Callan National Forest, and when I get my chainsaw, I get a US Forestry license, so I can practice anywhere in the United States. Same thing with any of my wilderness training, health training, all those things are by US Forestry. So we work directly, and we are directed by the US, because it's a national scenic trail, just like the famous one's Appalachian Trail, but there's 11 scenic trails in the United States. And they, we have 9 employees now for the state, which help maintain that, but it's vastly volunteers.
Okay,
Anyways,
new
So-
show idea, Florida Trails. Just sent it to my show, my producer.
okay,
that
well,
down as an
I will
idea.
put you in contact with the trail boss for this region.
It seems like there's a lot of information there that would be good to get out to. the
Oh, I
public.
think it's very, and because everyone thinks National Trail and they think, oh, Appalachian, it's like, no. The Florida Trail is a national, it's totally contained in one state, and it's 1,500 miles long.
It's on my
Wow.
bucket list to do the Florida Trail. It's
Well,
on
come
my
on down,
before I die.
I'll bring you down to the big cycles and bring you out and do some work out there.
And we could do some, I know, talk about short,
Yeah,
Huh?
He does some rough and tumble
sounds fun.
stuff up.
Oh, it's fun. You can come out.
Chainsaws and everything, right?
Oh, yeah,
So
chainsaws.
excellent.
Yeah, I got it.
co-chairs, Kelly and Eugene, so maybe we can incorporate into the council, maybe some field trips that we can invite the public to, and we can set up too, to try to get more public engagement and involvement in the district.
Yeah, I mean, we did that one out to the property on the econ last year.
Mhm.
But we didn't really open it up to the public though, maybe.
Yeah, we could. I mean, yeah, that'd be fun. I
Okay.
mean,
Let's
when it cools
add that
down.
to the end of the list here.
Yeah.
But let's move on to just get some of these updates real quick. So that was the updates in the Grow Lake Picket
Mhm.
North. I sent the email. The next item is update UCF corridor. Austin's not here. But that is related to Vision 2050, which I know, so I've been talking to Kelly about that Vision 2050. I really would like some help from the council on that, because that's going to be very important to how development continues into the future in Orange County. And they're doing some things that I am not comfortable or happy with East Orange County in that plan. So we have to, I need support, I need help.
So we need to learn about that, because I mean, 2050 was supposed to be out in January. We're still waiting. It could be 2050 before it
Yeah,
actually comes out.
so they were supposed to
And
come
most
out
of
with
us
a
will not buy
draft
it.
in January. They didn't. I brought it up. They were like, we never said that. And then they had to backtrack, because I'm like, it's on video. You said it during the BC meetings. I mean, and so then they were like, well, the schedule changed. I'm like, I had to say what the schedule changed. So the schedule changed, and so now they're releasing section at a time and having meetings with the commissioners with section at a time. So that's how it's coming out to me. So as those sections come out, I know Wes had sent you guys already the first sections. And I don't know how you guys want to handle the reviewing of it, like as a group, individually, like how. So I think that's up to you guys to decide what's best for y'all.
I'd like to get-
So all those sections you sent us, Wes, have been released, is what's,
Chapters 1 through 3, yeah.
yeah, it's what's in the.
Okay.
And this is like the first draft that's kind of come out right now.
Right,
And
it's
it's
not,
only a
a-
little
it's not, a-
section.
Oh, there's a first draft?
That is the
there's-
first sort of final draft.
yeah, it's not public yet, but the first 3 draft chapters are on.
Is there an index that of the future of what's?
Yes.
I
what's-
think,
So,
what's gonna
yeah,
be?
I think within the first, sorry, within the first of those pages, I think there's an outline of the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
didn't see any of the big overwhelming issues like rent and water and all those other good things. There's sort of like delusional plans for this and this and
That's
this.
what I was telling
And
you.
those are
It
gonna be
sounds-
the real, bread and butter issues that are gonna be
Yeah.
killers. As far
That
as
put
what
holes
we,
in any plan that you put out there.
Yeah,
So I haven't looked.
Yeah, so it does seem like the beginning is a lot of just philosophy kind of thing, or
It's
fluff, or
It's a
there's
fluff.
no real policy, and later on, I think it gets more to the policies. And the way they're structuring this 2050 is that you have sections of the county. So like you have a section of the county, it's called rural, I forget what it's called, rural orange, East
It's called
Orange or
marketplace,
something like that. Yeah, they're
marketplace.
calling it marketplace. And then within that whole section is other smaller marketplaces or communities or neighborhoods. And like, it really is like
So they're not
confusing,
gonna have
but
like
not
a,
confusing. Like once you start seeing it, like when they give you visuals, it's easier to understand it. But the way it's written right now, it's really hot. Like just getting the first 3 chapters, you're like, okay, where are you going with this?
so do they,
And you have to wait till the very end to see where they're going with it.
the old
Which-
growth
Wes, can you
management,
go to the one slide that says like transform, grow, evolve?
but are they conceptualizing, I mean, like the older policy, we had conservation, we had,
Right there.
This one, okay.
So this is an interesting thing and like the planning strategies. So this whole, I read the first 3 chapters. And just to skim it and see, you know, like, so every time I read something for like review, I always just skim it just to get a general impression. And it sounds like they've come up with this beautiful plan, right? But all of the ideas are so ambiguous, so broad and so big that it's hard to track what's happening from chapter 1 to chapter 2. What I do know is that their planning strategies are woven into each chapter. So you can look and see what they're talking about. So transform, they've got the strategy, which is to promote major opportunities for transformational change, such as infill, redevelopment, desensification, or public improvements. And then you've got evolve, which is associated with these little incremental improvements that they'll do for public improvements. And then it talks about the key difference between transform and evolve is that transform seeks to change a particular development pattern, while evolve seeks to reinforce local community character through localized incremental action. That actually makes literally no sense.
right.
While the latter, so while evolve seeks to reinforce local community character, who knows what local community character is, through localized
how do you enforce that?
incremental action. That
So
means absolutely nothing. If I were to write that to an academic journal, the editor would write me back and say, that says nothing. Your whole
that's what I
idea-
said to that other
says
consultant who came to the
nothing.
county with that report on the rent thing. I said
Yeah.
the same thing.
And then they've got the growth strategy, which is to guide in their development through more sustainable practices and smart growth planning principles. Why is that should be the foundation of everything that you're doing,
Yeah,
is to have sustainable practices and smart growth is
baseline.
the foundation, because that's when you start talking about affordable housing and rent. And so
Exactly.
that should be trickled down through every chapter. Instead, they're just dedicating a chapter to talking about these very brilliant ideas, of which we know doesn't work in Orange County, or we wouldn't be in the situation where we are right now.
Yeah, the problem is that they do have a consultant who's not from here, who's from, I think she's from Maryland or something.
But that's fine. That's actually a good thing.
No, she's trying to do here what she sees over there.
Oh,
And
well,
when
that's
I
a bad thing.
asked her, yeah, when I asked her to, she said, oh, this is how we're doing it in how they're doing it in other places. I'm like, okay, show me those other places. And she started
No.
showing me, I'm like, that is nothing like Orange County. Like, it's
Yeah.
like apples and oranges. It's
Yeah, I
not
thought
gonna
that
work here.
usually when an outsider does it, they do the footwork to find out what's the culture and the attitude and the challenges
What part of
there.
Maryland is she from? Is she from the city or is she upstate?
I couldn't tell you.
So
I think
then
she's moved to a couple of different places.
they've got the maintain that's there. But then there's nothing that is it. So you maintain something, but that means that you become stagnant. Maintenance is you're stagnant. It's not growing, it's not changing. You're just going to
You
maintain.
probably should never
what
have that
exists.
because you're gonna always evolve, because as long as you got generational changes, each generation needs slightly different
I
needs.
think what they mean there by maintain is like maintenance on a house,
No,
like upkeep.
no, it was,
Yeah.
Maintaining, like establishing the rural areas, so maintaining rural character where it's appropriate. And maintaining the natural environment.
Strategy applies to the
Yeah.
county geography, so it's a different maintain.
but the problem is like with the word maintain, like if you look at our lakes, what percentage of our lakes is compromised in Orange County?
90-some%.
90-some%. You want to maintain 90% of your lakes are toxic.
No, we want to grow that.
Yeah, we want to grow it.
That's true, that's
And we
true.
want to, so
100%.
that's what the use of the word maintain implies that you've reached a point where things are good and now we just
Stable.
need to maintain the status quo.
Is that a way to get, is that a
Actually-
reasonable way of getting around that, actually calling it an urban service line, and we don't actually want to talk about how?
Well, we could get there, but I think the whole overall thing about this Vision 2050 is that it seems more like a vision
Yes,
and
It's not a
a
plan.
like utopia, but it's not reality. So like there was one section, I don't know if it's on this chapter, but I was like, okay, you want to do this in this section. How are you gonna get there? They had no answers for me
it's not a
whatsoever.
plan.
It was not a, yeah, and I kept asking, I kept using that word too. I'm like, what's the plan? How are we gonna get there? You want to do this, but if you do it the way things are now, this is gonna be a tragedy. You know,
you want something that's applicable and conditional that you actually can apply as
Has
a
to be-
commission.
realistic,
Realistic, I mean, that's way,
something we can achieve.
I mean, the current policies that we have in the comp plan today are applicable, they can be applied. We haven't successfully even done those that well.
Yeah.
And now we're jumping to a whole new plan because that one failed. Well, it didn't, but we never, my problem about jumping here is you never even got the first one right. So starting a whole new one doesn't mean fix this one. I mean, because we've done a lot of work for the last 25 years on that plan. And there's some good things that in
They're
it.
actually still working on it and amending things in it now. I'm like, why are we even wasting our time?
Well, I think this is an exercise in,
But anyway.
I don't know, it's exercise to.
Are you gonna approve each section? Is the commission gonna approve each section, or is it gonna approve it in the whole?
I think they're expecting us to approve it as a whole in like 1 or 2 meetings, which I don't even think is.
Because if she's
realistic.
from, excuse me, if she's from an area that's already developed, that's a whole different ballgame than where we are. And if she's talking about Maryland and some of those places, they already have density. They don't have a lot of open land to do quote unquote the kinds of things that we still have to do,
And they
even
have
within Orange
infrastructure.
County,
Well-
not considering the rest of Florida as such. So that thinking, if that's the thinking, it's sort of like I'm involved with Scottsdale and Phoenix right now, and they're wiped out because Lake Mead is their water supply.
Yeah.
Lake Mead is bye-bye, and they know it, and now they're going to have to go back and redo and unwind all of the stuff that they just put together because there ain't no water.
Wow.
But with Maryland, one thing I could be said is they have sort of the same problem because they've been expanding. There's a friend of mine from that area, he lived 30 years there and he just moved back. And they've been expanding, but people will commute from Fredericksburg all the way into DC, hour away on the train. So they have the same issues with it. You got jump development going all around. So I don't know how she's looking at it.
But like you said, they have a train.
Yes, they do.
So they
They-
have a
And the
train.
train that this woman
We-
just did.
Oh, yeah, they
Don't-
have a
Yeah.
transit system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we don't have that. And I was just sharing with them because we went to Denver, Colorado for a conference there.
Mhm.
And so they, oh my gosh, let me just tell you, you have Denver, the city, you go, the airport is like further out and
Mhm.
all this development is happening near the airport, like acres and acres
Oh,
of
yeah, I
houses.
just
And I'm
flew through and I'm
like,
like-
where's the jobs? Like, I'm like, where are these people gonna work? And so I was talking to one of the former county commissioners there, is a friend of mine. So I was the last night he drove me around and I was like, so where are they gonna work? He's like, well, we have a train that goes from the airport into the city of Denver, so we're expecting them to commute by the train.
But-
Like, they have a train.
But they also have, I spent 4 hours of fun there 2 weeks ago when I was going to Seattle. And I was talking to people, as I do. And it turns out that they're having real problems trying to get baggage handlers and no surprise. Problems, because there's no affordable places to live out there. It's an hour away. They're being paid $15 an hour to work in a belly of jet when it's 95 degrees. Or they can work $15 an hour at Walmart or someplace else. Guess where they're gonna work? They don't have an hour commute. Plus, when they get off that train, they still have to catch another train to get on campus. Then they have to catch a bus to get out to the, so it's easily an hour and a half plus on either side of their, on their shift. So they're having real problems out there because the airport is way out,
It is
30
way
miles from
out.
downtown.
It was like a 30-minute drive. The taxi was like, I
Big
guess
money.
it was so expensive. I rented a car because it was cheaper. So the thing that I found interesting though was that the way they have their zoning.
Mhm.
And so their idea was to get cheaper housing because it was getting so expensive by building all that stuff around the airport. Because the city is surrounded by like government owned land.
Mhm.
And so each city is bordered by government owned land. So there's no annexations
Yeah. no,
between.
Well, that means that they got to
areas.
increase their density. I mean, when they closed Stapleton, that gave them a couple thousand acres, and I'm not sure what they did with it. I think they did
It's
redevelop
an
it,
industrial park.
industrial park.
Yeah,
So,
they're making.
I mean, they're making,
Trying to make.
it's
it.
something that we in Orange County have to address. Is how do we do affordable housing? And do we continue going sprawling out and making like Nona richer and Deseret rich, or do we figure out, it's the whole permit, something that was in the newspaper not too long ago, which,
But this is supposed to solve all that.
no, I think.
Well, that's the plan. This was the plan to solve the increase in population. Where are we gonna put that population? They calculated, or so they say, how many more people we'll have by 2050 to decide how many units or homes and stuff we're gonna need by 2050 and where we're gonna put them. And so that's how they supposedly are coming up with this plan.
I don't know, I mean, we have something that we've been working on for 25 years. People like myself and others have been yanking at them for decades, say, pay attention to the urban service line, get higher density, redevelop and thing. We have dead malls right now. We have lots of it. Fashion Square, of course, is Orlando, but Orlando Executive Airport has all that property around that is not being utilized. We have big chunks of land. We should be talking about giving incentives to buy out people's homes and go up. It's evolution. I mean, New York City did not look like what it is in the upper Manhattan 120 years ago. It was open at that point. It was evolving to what it is today.
One of the things that's always, whenever you do a development plan, you always calculate what's called a carrying capacity of a tourism destination. A carrying capacity tells you how much can that area support in terms, before there is a decrease in the quality of life for the residents, including like crime statistics go up, water becomes depleted, natural resources are too, taxed, the
Open
roads are
land,
too stuck,
yeah.
So you have all these different variables that goes into an index. And the index tells you how many people you can have. So when I first moved to Orange County, I asked Orange County staff, what is this was back in 2007, what's the carrying capacity of Orange County? And it's never been done.
When the developers have said, at different conferences, I've said it, 60 million people is what they're looking at is to build up Florida. That's what the number was thrown out at University of Florida at the law conference I go to years ago. Someone brought that one up, like 60 million people. I
All right,
wouldn't be
so
there.
how do y'all want to tackle this document?
Well, first we should all read it.
Yes.
And then. I don't know, you guys,
I was thinking we could just maybe go somewhere with the highlights of it right now.
Oh,
Well, I haven't
No,
read
no,
it.
we
Is it
have
that
right
big?
now.
No,
At least let's see what are the chapters. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at it, but I was like, look at the cover and
maybe that's our
So
homework.
these meetings are like
Highlight.
recording highlights.
Mhm.
We need to do work groups.
We need to go
more deep
homework,
diving
yeah.
stuff.
So when is this coming up?
Were you saying, Emily, that this is just the overview and they're going to come out with the future sections that are going to be far more specific and detailed and so forth? Is
I
that what you were
believe
saying
so.
initially?
So they're gonna be
Believe so,
replacing each policy section the water, the conservation with an updated version of it for this
So-
vision.
Wes, can you go back up to where the table of contents were?
Because that would be my concern, because I mean, there's been a lot of work generationally done on that document. It's not necessarily a terrible document.
So this is, so, wait, this is just one chapter overview.
Oh. So they didn't give you the full
Oh.
document.
They don't
Mm.
have that up
No,
there?
they do. If you click
Hold on.
click the link.
Oh, this one right here. How about just the email
I'm trying
right
to
here?
figure out where did I pull this from.
How to pop out?
No,
We
it's
double
out,
click on it.
out.
There you go.
Okay.
So these are the sections.
Okay, oh, there you go, that 4, 5, 6, 7, so.
Economy, technology, and innovation is coming out soon. Oh, they only gave them a month-long window to get it out.
You know, and I had to fight for the economy section there, like that wasn't gonna be in there originally. And I was like, you can't plan without considering the economy, and so they put that in there. I'm surprised, I did not fight for the tourism one, but I'm surprised that got put in there, someone else must have fought for that one.
If you're not familiar
That's part of
with
our
it,
economy,
It is, yeah, it's part of
it
the
is our
economy.
economy.
if you're not familiar with it, 1,000 Friends of Florida has done a 3-parter now on the economic development in Florida. It's fascinating stuff. It's really, really
Is it
good and really well done and such. And it applies, you can take the sections out of it and apply to what is the fact situation in Orange County or Palm Beach or wherever the heck you want to go. And it's really interesting how well they've done it, because they did it statewide and you would think it was so generalized that it was, but not true. You have to look at it and understand it.
Is it on
but
their
it's really
website,
good.
Bob? Is it on their website?
Yeah.
Is it web? Is it?
Yeah, 1,000 Friends. They're doing part 3 now, and they've done, two other parts.
Is it webcast or is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in PDF. You have PDF files and then tapes both, I think.
Okay,
But 1,000 Friends of Florida, you remember,
oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
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 Well, definitely under the economy, you have to make sure that they have a section for diversifying the economy, because for us to have an entire chapter in tourism, arts and culture, like that is like probably, I want to say 90% of our economy here, and we're so dependent on it that every time we have a recession, the travel is hit and then we suffer everywhere else.
Well, the other part of
It's
the,
also driving down the quality of life in the area. 'Cause
Yeah,
the wages
it-
are not livable.
Yeah,
well,
we
it's,
need to diversify the
the other,
economy.
well, our economy is tourism and development
Mhm.
and a little bit of engineering on the side.
Yeah, development
mean,
though,
really,
really can't be an
It
economy.
it isn't, but I mean,
it
tell that
shouldn't
to
be.
Osceola County, Osceola, the whole concept of there being, in Florida, since the 1880s, has been tourism, agriculture, development. That's the 3 parts of the legs of Florida's development. It's not sustainable.
It's not.
You know, ag should be protected, but we don't protect it in this county.
Plus, there's a chat. I think it just popped up.
Chat?
Do we have a section there for agriculture?
Emily said she had concerns about the UCF corridor part of the plan. Do we have access to that yet?
No.
No.
Can we scroll down more on this list?
That's
Is
it.
it-
This is it.
There's only 10 sections in this thing?
There's only 10 sections.
What's missing?
Yes, I don't, like, I just don't know how this is, how it all fits together.
Right.
Just.
So you're
it's-
gonna actually have policies come out of this? Is that the way it's gonna work? I mean, currently you
Yeah,
have.
are there policies?
Is Wes, is this on the beast, on the county's
From-
website now?
No.
Oh,
From a
this is your stuff?
legislature
is
standpoint, how do
her
you
stuff,
implement
yeah.
this?
Can
You
we,
can't
can we
implement
get
a
a copy of
concept.
that, like
Has
an
to be-
index?
You
Is-
have, you
Have
have,
you, is there an index in there? Because I
Yeah.
was looking
Was there
for
a
one in
vision
your,
before this?
what
Or
you
like
sent
a-
out
Yeah.
and I couldn't
We
find
just
one.
have the comp
So,
plan, which
hold on.
is considered the vision. It has goals, objectives.
Yeah, it's
policies.
a pretty detailed document because it's implementation type language in there. And that's what ultimately this has to be, because the boards are gonna have to act on this.
So
it
then
has
there's
to be
also
actuary
Orange Code.
language.
Can you go to the county website and look up Orange Code? Because there's another thing too that's going on, which really confused because I was like, okay, so is it orange code or is it Vision 2050?
Okay.
Because we were starting off with orange code
Okay,
and then.
then I blew it then. Okay, I'll go back.
So
I've-
Misty-
I've saved everything that you said.
Yeah, so Misty sends it to Commissioner and then we send it out. So that's
So what date did you forward it to us then?
July 25th.
Okay, I put all your stuff in one file, so it should be there then.
Oh,
All right, thank you. Sorry
No
about that.
problem. So what am I doing now?
We were just looking for, orange code. So
You want Unicode, right?
orange code right there.
orange code. Is that part of Muni code?
So this is something new as well. No, it's not. It's county's new code
Radical.
process. I'm still not sure what it is.
Is it by the planning department? Who's it actually done? It says radically simplified instead.
It is radically simplified. It's 2 tabs.
We don't.
The newsroom, mobile apps, is that it?
Yep, this is it.
So what are the new codes? Like, is it gonna be, they're not gonna call it commercial anymore, they're gonna call it business, or what's the new code?
I
Oh, okay.
am not sure yet.
Okay, I know what this is. Okay. So that OCFL Atlas, it's an app.
Well, that's an app, but that says where new planning stuff is happening.
All the planning stuff, like
Yeah, that's
everything.
pretty cool app. I'm gonna
Yeah.
download it.
So it just.
If you want to know what
encapsula-
development and permits are happening around where you live,
Yeah, you pull
That
that up and it's got a little color
Oh,
coded
that's kind of
pen.
interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I mean, it's integrating the GIS and,
but that's not the orange code thing. The orange code, I think, so the orange code started, and Teresa Jacobs was in office trying to solve the problem of what was happening with Lake Pickett. So she wanted to have this, it was supposed to be like what Vision 2050 is. But then when Mayor Jerry Demings came along, then he changed it to this new name, Vision 2050. And then Orange Code became something else. And it was just so confusing. It's like, what is going on here? So I'm still not sure what Orange Code is supposed to be. Like, it seems like it's being changed into something else now.
No, it's a 6
leadership does that.
Yeah, so, we really
Can you
haven't.
ask it at the next BCC meeting? Because in chapter 1, when you read it, it says that Vision 2050 is based on Orange Code. So it's very difficult to evaluate the vision if you don't know what the code is that it's based on.
So I'm thinking what happened was that they were like, let's separate the vision from the code. And so you got Vision 2050 and like the comp plan, which has all the policies and code, will turn into Orange Code. This is just my assumptions.
That's a lot of work to be, Orange Code. It took years and years to develop all that and hundreds of meetings, so I can't imagine just. Either they just turn and say, all this code is now called Orange Code. Because how do you do it? You can't do it legally.
Yeah, I
Those are
know.
things that have been voted on. They're in the Muni code. They're part of the Muni code.
Well, that's been happening the last
That's what it
few
says. It
years
says,
without votes or
every
anything.
city and county has a land
any
development
process.
code that describes where and how new buildings and communities may be built. While there have been many updates to Orange County's land development code, it was written in 1957. Now is the time to look at the big picture. So yeah, so this is supposed to be our commercial, like the C1, the R what, that's what this is
Or,
supposed to,
or to.
be. Yeah.
D2.
PD.
I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be changing that. I mean, that's
Well, so like the grow, you familiar with the grow's regulating plan?
the
Yeah.
T1, T3,
Um,
and that stuff.
Oh, God, the train sex.
Yeah.
No, maybe the
Transitional.
iDrive is probably a better example. But you haven't seen that. iDrive has like this whole like policy book, which has like all these pictures and the way it's like pretty, the way it's organized with the
Mhm.
policies, objectives and all that. Lots of pictures, graphics, colors. And I think that's what they're trying to do every section of Orange County.
So they're
based off
trying
something
to
like
put a
that.
lot of energy into geographical areas, international, UCF,
Yes,
and then what happens between these areas? Now we have, is it the rural code? I mean, now we have these, you kind of have a baseline of your code, and then you maybe have special areas.
yeah, I'm gonna,
It's a little,
let me try that. Is that okay?
So Wes,
So
is-
what you're saying about iDrive is it's a
Which
district,
document?
right?
yeah,
Which document?
It has a legal,
The,
it has a legal designation as a district as within Orange County then?
yes. I think I was on-
it's the only one that's called
It's called the
a,
CRC.
it's-
No, there's a couple, there's a couple of others. They're really esoteric. I think one of them has to do with sewers or some cockamamie thing like that.
well, there's.
Wes, what's that called when, like, International Drive, they collect the tourist tax? CRA,
CRAs.
CRA,
Yeah.
not CRC. CRA.
I'm sorry, it's a CRA.
It's a special taxing district, like,
So here's,
Community Redevelopment Agency.
here's chapter
It's a taxing
two.
district.
Community, okay, so it can generate its own tax,
it says
tax line then on your property
it's
tax bill?
overlay. It's overlay.
No, the taxes collected in that geographic
Stay there.
area stay there.
For example, Lake Nona
Oh.
has a CRA, Lake Baldwin has a CRA.
Yeah.
Any of these real uppity new developments
Emily,
typically
if you
have an
read the
overlay for
policies,
30 years. They'll pay
Read,
for the
read some of the
enhanced
policies.
Right.
infrastructure.
This is-
That's where I seen it then. like,
Yeah, Lake Baldwin
Is
is.
it 100% of
is the-
taxes in
is one of the
CRA or
oldest
portions of taxes in
Right.
CRA?
They're not- they're in the-
Yeah, because they put that
It's
together
somewhere
after,
well, it depends on
after
the
they, I
contract,
think,
right?
just after they got
So
the
how
sign
it's set
over
up.
from
Yeah.
the DOD for
They
that
closed it
property.
back in 98, 90, so they're 20 years under the.
Yeah.
So go,
CRAs.
go up to where like it's talking about the goal, because they've got like goal 1, housing choice and affordability. County will continue the recommendations of the November 2019 Housing for All 10-year action plan. So this then confirms that we're all saying that it's totally appropriate that 64% of that housing supply should be priced, and that you have to make more than $87,000 a year to qualify to buy it.
87,000.
More than $87,000 a
That
year.
basically knocks out probably 80% of the people easily in this county.
No, not you. But so
So, okay, so here was so goal 1. So look at the Orange County will continue to ensure an
Right.
ample supply of safe and decent housing. And then you go down to objective 1. The way that we're going to do that is with the 10-year action plan. But if you watch that BCC meeting, you can clearly see that the commission did not knew that was not enough. Those units
Right.
are not nearly enough. It's only 30,000 units. And the 64% of them, you had to make more than 87,000 when our mean income or our median income is like 27.
It's.
AMI is 41.
Huh?
The average median income is like 41.
No, the median. Because you consider all spectrums.
Doesn't the AMI take in all spectrums?
The average mean?
Yeah,
No, because it doesn't consider the outliers.
okay.
So $87,000. That's a lot of money.
That is
Yeah.
one.
And even if we went with the mean average, we would still, they're still 50% short more.
So how can, I mean,
afford a
this is,
house.
I guess this is the big question. How can, we're doing
Oh.
this in private industry. How do we get
This
them
right
to
here.
develop huge percentage instead of these luxury homes out in Lake Nona? How do we them actually get them to
How
build
do I move
multi-story?
this that way?
Tax credits
Oh, yeah, and also permitting.
and permit waivers.
It kills me, like, I want to get with Patty Sheen and slap her, because it's like, you just developed mills in Nebraska, you're putting out a 5-story office building, where's the apartments on that?
Right.
I mean, we need housing in downtown. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
That's the hard part. A lot of these empty malls sit in city property, whether it's a Coe or Orlando or.
They- All those businesses are getting tax benefits, all those hangars,
Mhm.
if you look at the tax receipts, it will drive you crazy. They pay less taxes than I pay on their private plane shelters.
So you see this red areas there?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So I just don't want to.
That's,
No, I just don't.
is that Winter
Camera.
What are you trying to do?
That, well, that down there, that's like,
How do I get over?
That's Avalon Park, and up there, that's Avalon Park Boulevard over to,
Okay, we're just
Alafaya.
looking, okay, that's halfway.
That's like, it's in the urban service area, but on the border of it where there's no infrastructure really there. The traffic is like dead stop F-rated roads. And but they want that to be a growth. Like that's where the
But-
heavy, the biggest density is gonna be built along those red areas.
But right now, 50, you know,
But that's when the mayor is going to say, yeah, but once the penny tax passes, then we'll be able to improve this.
It's a state road. It's maxed at 6 lanes.
Ugh.
So
it's already maxed out.
and
We can't
even
do-
with 10 lanes, remember the traffic study said it would be a F-rated road.
Yeah.
With the growth coming in, because now that traffic's gonna be on you. as
The
well.
problem is we don't have, they're allowing growth in a place that we can't have more east-west. corridors.
So, and that's what I was trying to tell them, and they're like, well, we're gonna have more jobs there, and all the red spots is where the jobs are going to be. I'm like, and that's where I was like, what's your plan for getting jobs there? How are you gonna get jobs there? They couldn't answer me,
Oh,
and then he
that's-
was like, I'm gonna aggressively answer your questions. I'm like,
ICP,
you could aggressively answer my questions, but you're still not answering the
well,
question.
ICP, tell them about ICP. How did that one work
Where's
out?
the-
What's ICP?
International Court Park. How many old timers are here?
Oh, this here?
It's not a housing development. It's where the boat people moved out. The Mormons bought it down by the airport. That was International Court Park, down by the prison. That was
Yeah, right
supposed to
here.
be an industrial park.
Rocket City,
No,
but
this,
not, it wasn't supposed to be industrial, but it was supposed
This
to be
is
like.
where the jail is.
yeah, that's a jail. Everything south of there was International Court Park, about,
Oh, that's right, with the 4-lane roads that are just.
yeah, and we had, back in, when Linda Stewart was in District 4, she got a bunch of us to look at the high-tech corridor before Lake Nona ever happened. We flew with this sheriff department over that whole property, and we had planned out, okay, if they're gonna do this, let's do a 1-mile swath straight up to UCF and make a corridor that's gonna be a train drive middle with super high density. And we agreed it. Sierra Club and everyone said, okay, if you do this, we agree with it, you know, and it never happened. But International Court Park was a place where it was a dream back in Lou Treadway and all those guys were involved with that one back in the late 80s. And they started building that stuff, but then nothing ever happened. Okay, that's
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right here.
Ski Nautique actually used to be on up on
It's on Orange Avenue.
on Orange
Hansel,
Avenue,
yeah.
and people really
Mhm.
were upset because like fiberglass stinks. So the guy, and I talked to that guy in the public meeting, he was really upset when they were gonna allow housing right by his place when he moved out to the country because of the smells. He moved the whole company out there to avoid people.
Yeah, there's this 4-lane road out here in the middle of nowhere.
He's a UCF graduate, so it's like, you know, I applaud his effort to try and do that, and then all of a sudden it flipped, and now it's going residential.
You
So-
see, that's the thing that when I say these plan needs to be realistic, like, it has to be something that we know we could achieve.
I mean, how often do you guys see on the board, okay, some pipe dream, the grow comes in, they say, oh, this is gonna be wonderful, we're gonna have this, all this type of mixed use and all this. And about 2 years later, if not sooner, they come back with a change order and say, well, we really need low density development, or, you know, density of R2 or something like that. You know, they seem that the only thing that this place can grow is homes. They don't do jobs. I mean, as a retired engineer, it hasn't changed in 40 years. I mean, as a graduate, you still have big military people, and that's it. There's a bunch of small companies, but this community, we tried with ATT back in the 70s, building the clean room on John Young, which I think is happening again. We tried with the Bergen at $300 million, and they took off after the money. I mean, that's what these people do.
Lockheed
Give money,
Martin.
Lockheed. They all in Lockwood, the East plan, you know,
Mhm.
it just turned into a real estate deal for them. I mean, we keep on getting burned this way as a community. I mean,
Well, it's because we're not properly planning for what they want. You know, they want, it's, okay, who runs these companies? People. People need a good quality of life. They are sitting in traffic trying to get to work. If they don't have the open space, parks, if they, you know, it's just, that's the kind of stuff that these companies, because the companies, I mean, there's people there running it. And so
Sure.
if those people are not happy, then they're gonna leave to some place where they get a better quality of life.
But that ties into transportation.
Transportation,
public
affordable
education.
housing, public education, parks and
One of the
recreation,
big problems I see.
diversity of economy, it grows
Yeah.
into all of that.
Well, I mean, as long as we continue, and this has been my argument for 30 years as activists, it's like, as long as you keep on growing the borders, you can't ever address your transit issues, because unless your traffic's super bad, you can't get, you need about 7,000 per square mile to actually make transit sort of work. It's never going to be profitable. No road is profitable. Let's take that
Right.
fallacy out. But to really get it working, you gotta get the density, and sometimes you can grow it. Portland, Oregon has done that. Seattle is doing that as we speak.
Then they have some other issues going on.
Dallas.
Huh?
I said, now they have some other issues going on that's pretty
Oh,
scary.
Seattle, oh, about the crime rates?
There's,
Yeah.
they have homelessness,
Oh.
squatters, they have just,
It's not any worse than anywhere else.
Well, it's bad because what's happening, and it's a different problem. We shouldn't have such a problem. You have Amazon, Google, and Adobe and all those guys.
So,
And then they're paying those kids $200,000, and up on the north side of the city, which I just walked through last week. You just get groups of young people, but they don't really do anything in the city except work. And all the restaurants that anticipated, what's his name? Steve Jobs, co-founder, redeveloped the whole north side. He spent a lot of money, and now it's 30, 40-story buildings all throughout there. And the problem is all those kids have driven up their rental costs. They're renting rooms, literally 350 square feet for $1,500 a month, and they're happy because they get gourmet meals in their companies. They're 20-somethings, they don't care. But it's pushed all the normal people out of their homes. They can't afford it. I mean, my brother is an artist there, and the whole art community's been pushed out. He's a manager of an art building, which is actually a very interesting nonprofit. But that's one of the few places that people can afford it. It's subsidized by this corporation, and the city's trying, but they have a huge problem because they tried to implement a tax on per employee.
all right, I'm so
And-
sorry, to cut you off. We're already at 8:05.
Okay, I'm
and
sorry.
So-
But we saw most of the
It
problems.
doesn't seem like we're getting to a idea of how we could tackle this.
I think we need to read it
Yeah.
and then read it and then kind of, Eugene and I can draft a document that just says,
What's
what
our
was the
take?
purpose? We'll draft a thing where we can just fill it out easy, and then come together with major discussion points about
Yeah, let's.
what we
need-
like, what we
Yeah, we just need
don't.
we need to bang this out and try to figure out where they're going and take it from our
Yeah,
point of
it's
view.
hard to do by chapter, but we'll try, because they're related, they're talking about things that are gonna happen in later chapters. And you don't have that later chapter to know if it's just a bunch of BS or if that makes sense.
The funky thing about this whole thing is you got all this policy that currently is law. How are they transition to this? I mean, you can't just do chapter.
I think it'll be a snap of the finger.
Mhm.
But
Will be.
it
All of a
probably will
sudden-
be. But all that underlying ordinances that have been worked on since the late 80s, since growth management kicked in 85, we adopted in 89, I believe, when it came in, and unfortunately the grow got. But anyways, we'll work on it. Okay, let's move on to, Austin's not here. Any updates on the BCC rates?
Rent stabilization is moving forward. The Florida Association of Realtors are suing the county to try to keep it from getting on the ballot. Has the ballots been printed? Do you know?
No, because they are waiting for the election to be finalized or certified officially, but they should be starting any day now. But there's also a challenge for one of the races, so we'll see.
Is it District 6 with one vote winning?
It would be District 6, and the one vote became 6. It went from 6 to 1 to 6, and so that's why they're suing.
Oh, District 6 is up in the air.
So who's suing? Cynthia Harris?
Cynthia Harris is suing, and somebody else is suing, but I can't say yet because they haven't filed suit.
How
There's
could you
one-
sue over
There's
that?
one vote
For a
difference to begin
recount?
with, and now there's 3 or 4, right?
It started, one person was up 6, then they did the first unofficial recount and it became one. Then they did the machine recount and the hand recount at the same time, and it went back to 6.
Both came out 6.
So he still hasn't certified them.
There's a timeline, so
Yeah.
they can't certify it until, because you have to wait legally for military ballots to come in. Blah, blah,
Like
blah.
15 days or
Oh,
something
oh,
after
it's
10
still-
days.
Still talking.
So that
about
could
kind of
change
balance.
the vote again.
Could, yeah.
You could, yeah, so it could change ballot. But then one of the other candidates is suing because they're claiming that 2 of the people were not eligible to be on the ballot, and so therefore it's a fake ballot, and so they want the whole thing tossed out and redone. It's a whole.
No.
What?
Wow.
Well, if they had success on that, then we can open up Senate race 9 2
How about
years
we just
ago.
put all 3 of them on the November ballot, and whoever comes out the most votes wins? We
Sure.
just make it that
Because one
simple.
of the parties is not one of those 3.
Mm.
So it gets really, really messy. So I'm just like, okay, well, good luck.
Because one of the
Bill
parties
has
is not
changed
one of
his
the 3
telephone number, right?
who's thinking of saying, oh my God.
Because their argument is that 1 or 2 of the candidates that are one of the 3 are ineligible, and therefore they should have never been on the ballot to begin with. And so
Why are
therefore
they
you can-
ineligible?
You know,
Residency. I don't know the specifics of
like-
it.
They
but
don't
I
live
think
in the district?
Yeah, or they don't live in the county even.
What?
Huh? What? How did they? Who
The
The
qualifies
supervisor,
that?
the supervisor, so I'll derail for a half second.
Okay,
The supervisor of elections does not verify any of the information. They basically take this form and say, you have completed the form.
they
You
take
are
that fee.
certified. If you want to challenge any of the information on that form, it's up to the candidates or the public to sue and have a judge interpret. The supervisor does not verify any information.
I guess that's not within the statute to do that. So that's
Same with the Secretary of State. you know.
Secretary of State has to do
Hey,
that.
Wes,
so.
on that lawsuit for the rent thing, does the trial court opinion, do they waive that until it goes through the appeals? I assume it's gonna go to the Supreme Court.
It's a question for the commissioner.
So is Bill super stressed, Bill Powell's?
Probably.
Bill's always,
Poor guy. He
But I
just-
mean,
yes.
it's gotta be like.
I mean, I'm sure, yeah, I mean, they're asking the governor to come and investigate it. I mean, it's a whole.
Oh, no, the
What?
governor, that's
Oh,
kind
my
of scary.
Oh, his
Right.
police force. huh?
Yeah, well, and what scares me is the governor made a comment about because 6 of the 20 people that committed fraud came from Orange County. So our fear is that he's going to come and pull Bill. Even though the Secretary of State told them that they could register these people, and then 7 months after the election came back and said, oh, wait, we were wrong about these people.
And who's responsible to validate these people? Is it the
Secretary of
secretary?
State.
So it's okay, it's what's her name?
Tell that to the governor when he pulls you out of office.
Well, the state's system
The state-
for fines and everything is supposedly as bad as the unemployment compensation.
Well, the system is broken because
It is.
the governor is just,
And
No.
the only, yeah.
yeah.
So and the only thing that can overturn the governor pulling you is the
Strange.
state senate either
Eh,
dismissing or
Ain't gonna happen.
approving. So,
The system is broken because everything falls under one group right now, and the founders never thought about this.
anyway, so
Anyways.
there's the sidetrack.
Yeah.
So what's the update on the lawsuit?
So the lawsuit is that it is, I mean, they're moving forward the lawsuit. So there hasn't been any trial or judge interpretation or whatever it is. So until the judge says you can't move forward with the ballot, it's moving forward.
Now, under what happened with the preemption of the rights of nature, they tried to do the same thing. Actually, we had a vote and actually preempted us. The judge sided with the electorate should have the right to decide. So judges tend to be pretty, once something's been approved to go to vote, they don't like to interfere with that process. That's a different process for them. So that we saw that with the CRC.
Well, I mean,
So it's
what-
hopeful.
What I kind of say is that part of the process of the rent stabilization by statute is the vote. So, I mean, you're suing for.
And you're not asking for
premature
You're
to
asking index
sue.
inflation, which is 8.7%. That's a pretty good increase. That's
Yeah,
bigger than my increase I got for my retirement.
but, so that's where that is right now, the tenant bill of rights. I don't know what date that's coming up, we gotta look at the dates. they gave.
About being kicked out without
In the
notice and all
slides.
that.
during the meetings, they had some dates when that would come back to the
Alright.
ECC. I can't remember what it is.
And rural boundary, do you have a vote on that too?
I'll give you an update on that. So the Senate Bill of Rights, the staff is working on that. They'll come back to the board with recommendations at a future date. Rural boundary, so that they didn't want to put the ballot. The commissioner said they needed more research on it. Which I was like, I brought this up several times, so you guys have plenty of time to research it. I don't think I said that though. But I was like, okay, if you guys don't want to put this on the ballot, you need more time to research them. Yes, let's go research and perhaps we could put this into an ordinance instead. At least we have something that we can do. So that's where that is. So I have to bring that back again to the board. I'm thinking though, some sunshine meetings in advance so that they can't say that there's not enough research, and I could sit down with them in a sunshine meeting and give them whatever research. Hey, if you have any questions, is there any more research do you want me to do? Let me know now before we go to VCC, and then you
I mean,
know.
there should be a way that we can protect the remaining farmland. If farmland is so important to the Farm Bureau, then let's try to protect what we have left, because it is a viable industry that we used to have much larger of. So.
I'm not sure if the Farm Bureau really look out for farmland, kind of
Well,
the NRA is not really looking out for, you know,
No,
gun
no.
owners.
No,
It's
no,
like- I think I don't know, the Farm Bureau is looking out for landowners.
yes, I
rather
agree,
than
I agree with that. They don't really
farmlands.
care about farming per se. That's why I don't have farmers insurance.
Yeah, so I think of the rural boundaries more about getting the people who live in that area and in that quality of life wanting to.
And it's actually
know,
transit
protect
positive,
that.
because we gotta get increased density. You know, if you live out in the rural
And
district.
smart growth.
Smart
people.
growth, if
Yeah.
you want, let's use the words.
But if you get
It's-
like those 1,000-acre landowner, he's not gonna support.
And I come right back at him and said, look, as a taxpayer, I'm subsidizing your land hugely, because you pay about 0.1% of the taxes that I pay.
And
So
they'll
I'm
say, keep doing
subsidizing.
it until one day I can develop all of it into
If
an
they-
Avalon Park,
I
make
tell-
lots more money.
I tell you, as a commissioner, what I would recommend, if they don't want to do that, then you create a new transitional land use. If you want to develop, once you change it to the future land use, your land is no longer rural, it becomes a certain level, and you're paying taxes, sweetie, and you're gonna pay a lot. And by the way, you know, if there was a way, I would love to go back on back taxes, but we probably can't. But if you're willing to sell your land that your granddaddy had died for, then you have to pay your fair amount then. You can't just bank it until the last moment, like we know some families are doing.
Like everything along that drive.
Long I Drive, on the east side, you name it, you know, every cow on Nukusi Road is getting a tax benefit right now.
I love the I drive cows though.
Well,
They have a special like tourism milk.
it's
very
Kobe, they massage them with beer.
But don't forget about the Disney cows.
The Disney cows are great because they have a Mickey Mouse on the side.
That's their brand.
That's how you
The
find out they
brand
got
on the
away.
side of the cow.
So- That's my stock, be careful.
Hey, I have a couple of stocks too,
And-
but hey, I'm still unbiased.
Okay, what about the budget? How's the budget?
Does the commission have its own group of people that they can do research, or do they have to go through staff, administrative staff for everything? Do they have like a, what do they call it, GAC? General Accounting Office, I guess it
They
is.
don't have a CBO. That's what-
No, but
So you
according-
can't get anything through the controllers. You have to go through anything that you ask for research on, has to come out of the staff.
That's something
operation.
honestly that you guys should look in, like a CBO, Congressional Budget Office. Those
Yeah,
people,
Congressional Budget Office.
those people, you guys should actually operate your own, because our system is broken right now. The mayor has too much power, in my opinion. He should not, or she should not be part of the legislature branch. You have the executive mixed with the legislature, which is plus they control the resources, as you well know. So my recommendation, if they can't correct that section, you develop a CBO type organization as a professional organization that works for the commission, and the mayor has no say over it. You control the budget, you create the item, you create the section.
Right, well,
Use
that
your
will
budget
be
abilities.
item something on
That'll
our
be
project list
E1 dot
for
one.
the for the was it the citizen review? oh my gosh,
CRC?
CRC, Citizen Review
The
Commission.
Charter Review.
Charter Review Commission.
Yeah,
So 2024.
it's coming up.
Hey, when we get closer to that, the council could decide like what kind of things that they want to advocate for in the charter change.
Yeah,
So budget, good leadway to the
Leadway.
budget. So in the budget, I did ask for two things. I don't remember two. We asked for a third aide for our offices and for a raise.
oh, that'd be nice. He needs a raise.
Well, for a raise for the commissioners.
I'm gonna-
Oh, raise too.
So, I mean, anytime the commissioners ask for anything that would make their jobs easier, the mayor is like, no. So, I mean, I calculated it for the commissioners to get a raise based on, it's actually, I
When
shouldn't
you
be
vote-
calling it a raise, it should be like for a
Uh,
fair compensation according to the state statutes, because we're not following the state's formula. We're following a formula that previous commissioners had put in place, which has really kept us behind all, like Seminole County and Osceola County gets paid more, their commissioners, and they have less population. So the state formula goes by population. And so
I would
that's what we
actually-
were asking, to follow the state's formula. And if we followed that, the whole budget will increase by just $90,000, which is way less than if we added a third aide, which I asked for as well. And the third aide for that would be $60,000, $70,000 per,
It's including
but depending
benefits?
on in benefits and all that, so that would
That's not
cost a lot
much.
more.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the mayor was a little bit more willing to do that. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. $90,000, like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, what you could do, another thing to do is attach your,
So did he
Is
do
it-
any of that?
Well, he's in a 2-income family, so he doesn't care. Guaranteed job.
well, the,
Who knows whatever the
The-
kickbacks also.
what you might wanna
I
do.
don't know how he
if-
affords to live in Windermere, a gated community on a public servant salary.
Well, look at his contributions, that would help
It's
you.
called a
So, but
pack.
did he approve any of it?
No, and they're trying to fight, so we got a majority of the board wanting to move forward with the third aide. But I think he's trying to, through staff, push back on that, because one of the staff members was calling each of us and asking us what we thought about that. And then when I talked to her, I'm like, well, why are you asking us, oh, to get a gauge? I'm like, so what kind of gauge have you gotten? She's like, it's 50-50. I'm like, but at the board meeting, it was like majority, yes, so.
Is that sunshine violation?
No, it's not. It's not sunshine violation.
Okay.
If
just-
she was like a conduit where I told her to tell somebody else something, that would be sunshine
You don't think the
violation.
mayor's getting any information on
Isn't she the
that?
conduit by going to each of the commissioners and asking and going back to the mayor to report?
That's an interesting question, but.
That's the one I'm
but
thinking of.
No, it's not. So.
Boy, that's really great.
So the way, I mean, there's been case law on this, and the way it's a violation of sunshine law is someone specifically has to say, go tell this person this.
Mm.
Okay.
So yes, the mayor's using staff to go to each of us and find out what each of us
Play
think,
hardball.
but that's not a violation of.
Make a
sunshine law.
motion to cut his pay by 50% and see if you get a second. If you don't want to do this, Mayor, we say that. you
I
should get-
should do.
I mean, play hardball. I mean, if the least
Like,
thing that you could do is
Since you
budget.
think we get paid too much, how about you get paid just as much as the rest of the commissioners do?
Yes,
He gets.
Because he gets
50% more.
paid.
all right,
Yeah,
then he should
more.
get the same pay. That's the motion. You should be paid
Yeah,
the same
much
amount.
more.
That would be a little nicer. And say, then we all, since we're all part of the legislature and you're sitting on the, you should be paid the same amount.
The argument is his is a full-time job and the commissioners are considered part-time.
But does he
No,
have,
we're not considered part-time.
No.
It says to work as much as we have to in order to do our duties.
No, like I said. part-time.
The other thing, as
No, but
a,
we do work, a lot of us
as
do
a
work.
thought, you also could add, instead of going for the raise, add the language of index inflation or wages or index inflation each year. So at least you're keeping up with the ball, because right now you're falling behind by,
We're falling behind, but that's actually what they are using currently is, well, actually they don't. So it's,
because you've been at 79,000 for how many years?
yeah, so it's like the CPI or what the employees are getting, but whatever's less. So if the CPI is higher than the employees, we still get less, which I think is fair, on that
should-
point. If we're not paying our employees, I don't think we should get a raise either.
Mhm.
But the thing is that sometimes the CPI has been like 1% and we've been giving 3% raises, so we don't get the 3%, but we get the 1%. So that's where I'm like, it's,
Well, maybe
Not
that's what you
fair.
do, align yourself with the employees, because the argument, if you don't, then you're gonna be seen as like kingpins and like, oh, you're special. So
Yeah, I
that
mean, that's
politically, that's a
something-
bad thing.
yeah, either the Florida formula or, whatever we give the employees is what we get.
I think it gives you more incentive to give them a decent wage. increase.
Exactly, yeah. I
And they
think that
certainly
too.
need it. I mean, the
Yes.
state of Florida is a whole nother kettle. I just lost the guy I work on, he's going to Flagler County. So I don't know what the scrub day survey is gonna happen now.
So, the next item,
Animal
animal services, we don't have, well,
So,
I mean, I have an update on it.
okay, go.
I talked to health services today in our quarterly meeting. So the Pet Alliance that used to be on the same property, they're moving forward finally on demolishing that and possibly being able to use that land as well, which before we weren't able to. So they were going to relocate the mosquito department and then move the new animal shelter there. But now things are kind of getting shifted and made easier. Now that we have that more land.
Yeah,
here.
down in Rio Grande, there's an Orange County school property for sale.
Oh, they already had another property in mind for the mosquito control.
Yeah, I hate to see public property so deprived but is there any talk about, for us who own dogs and stuff, doing like a yearly fee, and that money would be totally dedicated to take care of the shelters and all the associated things that you just applied, I think, 15,000, for the neuter.
There's a lot of families that are surrendering dogs and cats because they just can't afford the care. So
Right.
if you increase the cost burden,
But then,
then you'll have an increase in the animal.
Yeah, so what happened recently too, so another update too, is that they're gonna have a full-time vet, which they don't have now, they don't have a vet. So with the new building, they're gonna have a full-time vet there as well and be able to provide more of those services.
I wonder if we can correlate with the UF and have grad students there. I mean, if you can't afford $5, then why do you even get it? Because I mean, dog food right now has doubled. I mean, it's
Well,
just-
we have had a lot more surrenders. We were over our capacity by a lot. So they had put a temporary plan in place, but free adoptions to try to get adoptions faster and get the count down. It worked. So I got some of the numbers
we
down.
could use the convention center too. There's plenty of space in there.
Could you imagine?
I mean, might as well use the
Westfall.
tourist development tax for something for the citizens.
Matt, you really do have to have a good type of structure for animals, because like all the ways to maybe be able to clean it easily and
It's a lot of concrete,
Stuff like
varnished
that.
concrete in those, on that
yeah, but you
floor.
need to have a track to kind of spray everything down into and wash it off.
Okay.
So they have a report ready to go. We talked about this the other day. They're just putting it into a format of a summary of their observations and then a list of key action items that they would like to see done.
So they're
Okay.
almost complete with their project.
But the thing is, I mean, I just want to make sure that they're guaranteed some type of real budget every year, and that's, I mean.
But they are,
oh,
they're funded with the
I
budget.
mean, it's a big county, we should not be,
I have one location.
oh, yeah, one
It
location.
actually
which-
would be nice if we had a couple locations, because you have to just drive
The county's big,
all the way
the
to
county's
of
huge,
Massachusetts.
it's big,
It's huge.
and it takes forever to drive across.
I mean, if you're in a Popco or Selwood, are you going to? OCA?
No, no, I mean, really, we need really minimum of 3, kind of min.
I only go past the Popco when I'm going to Mount Dora for our wedding anniversary, because we were married in Mount Dora, so that's the only time I ever go
There's
past
a
it.
huge, I mean, and on the Parks and Rec, I get to drive around the entire county for the different meetings, and like, I dread going to District 1. I said, oh my God, it's. Because I refuse to use the tollways. I don't want to subsidize the tolls.
All right, right, so
unfinished.
the other item that we added to the agenda was quickies.
Okay, discussion on small projects.
The cookies, yeah, so
Couple minutes.
I think that with the amount of time that we spend on Vision 2050, if the group just adopts it as a collective group project where we all read it, Eugene and I will come up with a simple evaluation form per chapter, and then we meet and we discuss and give the information to our commissioner, then she can kind of synthesize it and add to it or refine it, delete, whatever you need to, but at least then we have a baseline of information coming to you. So maybe for like the next, and we can accomplish that before our next meeting in this month,
That's doable.
Yeah, for just the sections that we got now.
1 through 3.
Yeah, the next,
The next
I don't
section is
think-
supposed to be at the end of this month, right? Today.
It's supposed to be today through Friday.
Okay.
yeah, and we won't have all of it until like November.
Jeez.
But then they want to have a meeting to approve it and everything like in December, right?
Yeah, they'll have it at the end of November.
December.
December or next January. Which is around the holidays. I hate when they do major decisions during the holidays. It's like the worst time.
Because
Oh,
the
yeah.
public can't really participate.
The public's like on vacation, they're doing their family stuff. It's
Well,
just,
everyone wants, I mean, God, I hate Christmas. Well, I used to-
Grinch.
actually don't like
Well,
Christmas either. It's all
well-
about consumerism and spending
No,
money and
At work, they used to always set the projects due on the 20th of December, and it's like, why? Why are you doing that? Because
I
then
have
you're
to call it
working.
like 8:30 sharp almost.
Okay,
I'm already getting buzzed.
okay. Oh, she is.
Yeah, by my mom.
Oh, yeah, I got a call from my mom too.
all right, so we have unfinished business. We could skip over. Do we have who's on these? I don't have the names. Who's on these projects? Stormwater ponds code. and
Eugene, you were
septic
working on
tank.
that with,
Yeah, and I-
what's his name?
John, I need,
John.
yeah,
John Fowl.
yeah, I need. to
And
get
that's
with
something
him.
I
haven't,
I can help
you
out.
want to
on
help him? Okay,
Yeah, help me. Do you want to
yeah,
come into there?
yeah, we gotta work on that. And,
Charlotte Pepper would be good at that one too.
I
yeah.
know she was very interested in that.
She sent me an email Sunday, yeah. So yeah, she's 100%.
Well, Louis, do you want to work Anna and then I'll take the lead and I'll support? You're a professional in that, Anna has a lot of experience.
Remind me, what's the latest on the stormwater pond code?
Needs to be redone.
Needs to be done, it doesn't work. I mean, my input is, we gotta make it more ecologically viable, where the water is not just looking at flow rate, but also quality.
Mhm.
Let's use our charter, which talks about, the water quality and stuff. So let's implement it at the beginning of in the treatment ponds.
And I just got a constituent who was complaining about Lake Sioux, which is in the city of Orlando, but about I forgot what micro somethings that are in the water, and that no one's really doing anything about treating it.
Right, eutrophication, yeah.
So
They've been, I actually caught up about a year ago. I watched a couple lake people take out all the vegetation. They were actually going in the water, scraping it out.
that's-
Our beloved state has passed a law which basically does not allow municipalities to take care of anything below a certain size. And that lake is smaller, so they can't even touch it. So it's almost a DEP issue, I think. I don't know how we manage it. The problem is it's fertilizer. It's fertilizer. If they want to do some, stop the fertilizer.
all right, well, he's complaining about EPD not doing anything and EPA not doing anything.
EPD doesn't have the right to be in there because the city of Orlando. I did a big runaround with the city. And the city has no ecological unit. Oh, called, what's his name? Chris, he's our environmental. One person doesn't make up the whole city. There's no one actually who has an environmental background.
So if the city doesn't have it, it falls under the county then according to our charter. So I think that's what needs to be
Okay.
evaluated probably for those situations. So we have the stormwater. I don't know if the natural water treatment and could be under that too, or
So everything like Nona and all that actually is EPD, not the city of Orlando, all the water issues out there and.
Well, if it's in the city, I don't know what the city has for their lake management. But if the cities don't have, whatever the cities don't have, then it falls under the jurisdiction of the county until they make their own laws and stuff.
What I'm afraid is that they're not doing it and they're saying they're doing it and they're just, I don't think it's happening. And I don't think the city is acting as a city, but
The city actually doesn't have lake management. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think they have lake management.
no, they don't have anything. I caught it all around the city when that was going on. And
So if they don't have it, then the county, it falls under the county jurisdiction.
so then we have to look at the state law and see, do we even have the right to say anything? It really falls back to the fertilizer issue.
Yeah, the county comes out to my lake where I live in Little Lake Fairview, and they come out and do an assessment, they walk it, they take samples and things. The only complaint is they don't do it enough, but they have so many lakes around here. And eutrophication, like you're talking about, too much fertilizer is one of the key things. We have the Dove's Dread Golf Course. They did a huge redevelopment plan on that where they built a water estuary. And it actually, the golf course used to run off directly in that lake, and we had hydrilla and all, I mean, it was just getting covered. Now, I talked to the guys coming by with the boats, and they said this lake is probably one of the cleanest ones we have around. We're having the eelgrass develop, which
That's good.
was something that wasn't there at all a few years ago. In fact, they put too many carp in one year, and it denuded the entire lake. It was nothing but sand.
We gotta get rid of
So
those.
they came back with a more, equitable amount of carp into it. And now we have the eelgrass. It kind of looks just like when you swim in the spring, very clear. And the eelgrass is just flowing along the bottom. And so, I mean, they're capable of doing a good job. But I tell you what's interesting is the stormwater pond. We've got one that's not functioning correctly. And when I-4 drains also into the one not too far from me, that goes into the lake. And that one has an emergency override, like it's
Overflow.
archaic, and it triggers it all the time. And whatever's in that pond dumps into that lake I'm telling you about. That's beautiful. And then you get all kinds of beer cans and crap, everything that comes from Fairbanks Avenue right into it.
Yeah.
And we've called and we get people out and they come and they dig it out a little bit.
Elizabeth said
That's
they
where
should-
the
Yeah,
pond.
that's where this is a very important topic right here.
Elizabeth said they should form a MSBU.
The city, yeah,
Yeah.
like the lake
The
management.
county.
Yeah.
Our county does.
The thing
What's
is,
that?
We formed one for our lake, Lake Pearl here in East Orlando, and we work with the county, and they, our tax dollars are helping improve the quality of the lake. It's been really effective.
Right, so they formed one at Lake Pearl, which is where she's at. When working with the county, they use some of the tax money to reinvest back into the.
Yeah,
One of
we have a special taxing unit for
Yeah.
ours. as
yeah,
well.
we do too. And the problem with that is they use the same type of, they get the light doctors or they have the people like my dry
Spray.
pond, they will mow it and they fertilize the dry pond. Which is automatically pumped down, goes into Fern Creek. If you've ever been out in Fern Creek in Greenwood, it's bright green. And we're contributing. So there's a real basic problem on how we set the policy and what a dry pond. Yeah, Mike, you want, there's Lewis.
Be interested in that, yeah.
Lewis,
I
you
definitely would.
exchange
And
Go ahead,
it's
ideas.
Elizabeth.
she's also, since she lives in
And
Lake
Elizabeth.
Pearl, she's, you two
I
live
think
on
only
lakes with youth
$37 a year for
management,
mine.
and
Yeah.
are familiar with it.
Right.
If we could see if there's a way to get that within the city of Orlando, because they don't have one.
Yeah.
And help out with those residents.
Mhm.
Because I'm getting a lot of complaint, because the city of Orlando, some of it's in my district too, and I'm getting calls from them like, I can't help you, I'm not your I'm your commissioner, but not your city commissioner.
Right.
So if we could find out how we can help them, that'd be great. We could probably have a work group with you and EPD, whoever works with that, and see if there's a way to take.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Be in that thing.
Yeah, that would
Right,
work.
Yeah.
she-
Be in that
Yeah,
thing.
she said
Yeah,
yes.
survey work.
So yes, okay, sorry, Elizabeth, that we can't really hear you.
Sorry, that's okay.
Yeah,
But I will,
Alright.
Eugene and I will meet tomorrow and we'll get the form over to you,
Yes.
to your office.
All right, so I think that's probably a
That's about
quickie
it.
that we could do. It shouldn't take too long for that type of project, but just kind of come up with solutions, like EPD, some ideas that we could probably then
There's a
share
couple
with
things. I think the first thing is jurisdiction of who actually manages these lakes within the cities. If it's not the city, then we need to inform APD. You need to start working in these areas.
So I guess there will be some research on Florida statutes, the county charter, and the city.
Well, wasn't that thing with the clearing the lake, didn't that have to come out of DEP? The state in order before they could clear it for swimming because of that microbacterial thing? That even the county and everybody else, they didn't have the authority. It had to be DEP's testing and approval before it came through. Or do they control through the top down, is it?
But how does the water management district come into play too?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole education
I
on
don't
it because we have
know.
water
I don't know the
management,
answers
we have
right now.
DEP.
Yeah.
I think, so from how I try to understand it is that you have your minimum requirements from like the state or the federal government, and we could go stricter than that in local government.
I guess I'll talk to Gabby. Mitch.
This sounds
She-
like a great opportunity to have Liz
Gabby-
Johnson come in and explain it.
Yeah, Liz, yeah. I'll talk to Gabby and
She's
ask
pretty
her.
good at explaining things. She's had to explain to me mitigation several times because I keep forgetting how it works. So like, explain that to me again. Okay, so storm water ponds, we got that septic tank comp plan review. So they're working on the septic tank stuff now with the county.
That just came up in the BCC, didn't it?
Yeah, so if you guys want to dig in and watch the last BCC meeting, that section. It was pretty quick. It was the last item of the day. Yeah,
I think one of Gordon's big pet peeves, and I agree with him, is we're still approving developments with septic
oh,
tanks.
that's what it was. Okay, so maybe that was kind of
That was
separate to
Gordon's
this
big
then.
pet peeve.
Yeah, so I think this here
Which I
was
agree.
more of that if you were developing a house, you were required to go into the sewage line and not get a septic. I think that's what this was.
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense because we're paying money right in District 2 right now to redo the Wakaiva. Meanwhile, we're going out to Lake Pickett and putting in brand new homes on septic.
Yeah, but I think that last meeting still covers a little bit of
Makes no
that.
sense.
Well,
They
the-
talked about.
The utilities aren't there. Yeah,
So,
no planning.
Yeah, so my thing is, well, I guess you're not gonna be building right now,
No
are you?
planning.
Or guess what, in 20, 30 years or 40 years, we're gonna have to be fixing the Econ Basin, just like what we're doing in the Wakaiva
Well,
Basin.
the water quality has dropped. The E. coli in Econ is really bad.
Right.
It's nasty. We've told all our hikers, do not take water from the Econ, it's dangerous.
All right, so that's what that is. And who's on that one?
I don't know who's on that one, actually.
I think that was one of the ones that we wanted to do, but we did not. Oh, Elizabeth, great point. Mandatory sewers should be in Vision 2050.
That is such a
That's-
good point. Thank you, Elizabeth.
That is
Very
a good,
good.
that's a real good point.
Yeah,
I mean, we're spending as a society a hell of a lot of money right now.
It was a few years
what
ago,
was
they
it?
were,
What was that thing, Eugene? They figured that it was 3 times the cost to correct as it was to mitigate as such in most projects,
Yeah,
most environmental projects. I think some big conservation organization came up
I mean,
with roughly that number, 3 times.
personally, I would, this is kind of mean, but if you have a septic and if there is sewer availability, when you sell your house, it has to be on sewer when you sell it. So
well,
you know,
that has to be
I
done to
think
the
that-
municipality.
I don't know about,
It's-
well, because thing is, like, I don't want to put like.
I know people right now that have sewer potentially, but their septics are cheaper if they find.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
right.
don't want to put elderly couples in a fixed income into a position where.
But that's
they
why
have
at the
to-
sell
That's why
point, when they
Set.
sell, when they
But what if
sell,
they got like a reverse mortgage or they're getting equity loans in order to live on?
but
or-
that's okay, but
You can
that's,
petition for an exemption.
The whole Dubstred golf course community was on septic, and there was a massive project to have to bring it into sewer.
but everything east of you, all like from Kentucky, that's all on septic
Yeah,
still.
mhm, yeah, and most of the houses on the lakes were all septic, but they were
Yeah.
built back in the 50s.
Yeah,
And that's the
because
worst
that was
place. for 'em.
county
Yeah.
back then.
Pam Seibel's having this issue, so the Sunflower rural settlement, Sunflower Trace rural settlement,
Mhm.
which is where they're expanding that force main to come through for the grow.
Mhm.
because they're in a rural settlement, no matter what, they cannot connect to the pipe that goes through their neighborhood. They have, because they're not part of,
Yeah.
because they're a rural settlement, they're not allowed to connect to the municipality.
Well, because they're rural service area.
Right, but the force main is gonna run right down their street. and
Well,
they
Lake
can't connect to
Pickett
it.
wasn't supposed to be able to access it either, but they made an exception in the comp plan when they got their whole thing.
Right. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. She's like, you're ripping up our road to put this pipe in,
And they
The
can't
problem,
have
and I
access.
can't access it, you know, even if they wanted to.
But on the,
Does sound
you
ridiculous.
know, it's messed up, but on the other hand, if you allow accessibility, then you potentially will increase the density. But that doesn't stop us from building density even when septic.
Well, you know, that is a project. What if we allow rural settlements, which are highly dense communities within the rural service area, if they have a pipe nearby?
They
To
should be
get onto
allowed, I mean,
sewage.
they should be allowed. You have to have an overlay, say, this is a rural district, the urban boundary stops you from ever going. But if there's accessibility to a sewer pipe and you want to connect to it,
I didn't really understand.
do it. And if you got an older family, who can't afford it, maybe we have a grant process or something.
The issue with that,
Yes.
once you start it. So like, that's what they're running into with Wekiva right now. Once they start it, there's these grants and these
No, tell me what
programs.
that is.
If you don't take advantage of it and the program ends, you have
GLB.
365 days to then connect to the system at your own
I could write
expense.
it by bare
and nobody's
handwriting.
telling you So whether you want it or not, once they
EOB,
start,
okay.
you're
At
committed.
AOL.com?
It's in the state law. and
I'll
they-
probably,
you
I'll
put it
probably.
easement, the
Can
whole
we-
nine.
And I'm not sure, some of the roads do this. Can you put it on your property taxes as a 10 or 20 year spread out cost?
That'd be
Do
great.
they
yeah,
allow
think
that?
about
Or is it a special
Yeah, I
assessment one
started
time?
looking
I
at
mean, the
it
county could
because I was
set up something
fascinated
like
by
that.
it,
The county has to be willing
because I
to.
lived
Right.
And that's a question to ask the county. If we can't, if we have residents that want to do the right thing, but they just don't have $20,000, and we shouldn't be hitting them with an impact fee.
And what you do is
Yeah.
you write it, you
Yeah.
incorporate it,
Yeah.
prorate it into the property taxes across 10 years, but if they sell, it's due
They
on
don't take
transfer.
it
Transfer, yeah.
Or the transfer to the next.
That's close to ours.
You could transfer it too, because some of the road improvements have done that way. So it's just, it's a CRA on one property, essentially. It gives it, yeah, it gives Scott Randolph a little more work to do.
All right, so moving forward on work group meetings, so we just want to
Oh, the second
quickly,
page here. Oh, dear.
so I just want to quickly go over
I
work
got
group
you on
meetings.
that.
Okay, we're still
Okay,
in session.
that'd be good.
Sorry.
Maybe we can figure something out for both of us.
Yeah, when there's side discussions going on, that means the meeting's almost over.
Yeah, that's right,
yeah.
All right, number 9,
I
new
just gave
business.
him my
We were,
info.
we were collaborating.
Yeah.
Let me know when everybody's there.
Thank
Okay,
Okay,
so-
that's our ultimate
That's
kick out.
your ultimate
Yes.
goal.
So work group meetings, so I know what we used to, when we first started off planning to in these monthly meetings, we're gonna do 1 hour of our monthly meeting and then 1 hour of a work group meetings. If you guys wanna try to go to that again, so you can have some time, like, you know, to do your work group meetings without having to plan another day, but I highly suggest you still maybe over the phone or virtual, do your work group meetings as well. That way, when we come back here to our monthly meeting, we're just doing highlights and reports on what you guys discovered, or where you are, your progress. And then deliverables. So we have 1 deliverables coming with the animal services. I don't think anything else is ready for deliverables. So when those deliverables are ready, we'll have those coming to the group. Yeah, and then always recruiting. We need recruit for council members, try to get more attendance. I don't know what could help with the attendance.
CEO.
If another time or day would work better, then maybe you could survey the group and see if that would help, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Start turning this into action.
Oh, and then also we need
Okay.
public engagement.
D.
So we need to start
Okay.
marketing
Yeah,
these meetings
how do we do that?
so that we can get people here.
Should have date and time.
Tell your friends.
Can we get a graphic design?
I thought we had one. Yeah, I think we have one.
Traffic?
Graphic with a date and time.
Oh,
location.
okay.
We don't have a day or time, but we have a Facebook graphic that, you know, just says D5 neighborhood, District 5 neighborhood, the logo for this year.
That.
This
got it.
year. We just have that.
So we'll
Okay.
start moving.
We don't really have. I mean, date on it.
Okay,
Elizabeth, anything you needed to add?
No, that sounds good. I'll talk to my lake person about Lake Sioux and see if he has a connection or an idea.
talk to the-
Okay, sounds
Do you
good.
have his phone number and everything?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, thank you.
And your email address. We're good.
All right, we're good.
Maybe we could send out to everybody the contact
And I'll
list
test,
in
I'll give you
in a
a text.
Yeah.
Excel
A
format.
test email.
Well, everybody's emails are in the main email. Yeah, we can do a, we can do-
I could,
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Good night.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good
Thanks.
night.